Okay, so what we are discussing, uh, we have discussed the orthogonality condition, right? So this is the orthogonality condition we discussed in the last class. Okay, so uh, we have this E1 H2 cross H2 xy dxy, that is actually 0. Okay, and it can be, instead of 1, you can actually write down m, and instead of 2 you can write down n. Is that okay? I can write, right? Yes or no? No one. Ayush, tell me. Ayush, are you listening?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Hello. Yes, sir. Sir, I am audible.
Yeah, you are now audible.
Yes, sir.
So this is, you can write, right?
Yes, sir.
Think.
So E M N 1 2 2 1. Yes, sir.
Everyone agree with this? So we have started the this numeric 1 and 2 considering any two arbitrary uh, modes, correct? But we never said that this 1 and 2 specifically mentioned they should not be identical. They are different modes. Now question is, when m equal to n, does it satisfy this same thing? Can we write? When I said 1 and 2, we consider any two arbitrary mode propagating in the same direction, or they can be propagating in the opposite direction, right? But we never said that they need to be identical. They need to be same. 1 and 2 should be same mode. It is not like that. Any two arbitrary modes, that is actually designated by m and n, two indices. Now suppose if it is m equal to n, still that will be correct, that will be valid. Think, and anyone can try to answer me. Yes. So I think Partha is correct that it is basically, if electric field and magnetic field coming from the same mode, they are basically uh, that is the pointing theorem that actually uh, describe the power flow. Let us consider T mode. So I know that electric field will be typically T like mode, I would say. Better to write a T like mode. If it is not 1D waveguide, it is 2D waveguide we are considering. We consider T like mode. Then you will have EY 0, right? Electric field, and magnetic field will be HX 0 HZ. So this will be Z also. Z component will be there if it is T like mode, right? So that actually we are considering, just assuming what? We are assuming that this is your y, and this is your x direction, and we can consider this is your box layer. So this is box in the bottom, and then you have a silicon on insulator you are considering, for example, right? So this is your silicon, just example I am giving, waveguide in, this is your z axis, propagating direction is z axis, right? So in that case, for T like mode, I have dominant electric field is Ey and dominant magnetic field is Hx. If they are indicated with a mode number m, I will be writing m here, right? I will be writing m here, I will be writing m here, I will be writing m here, m here. So all belongs to m, right? And as usual, we say that all these components, they can be independently some profile will be there. Ey will have one type of function, Ez will be another type of function, Hx will be another type of function, Hz can be another type of function, xy dependent function will be there, distributions will be there, right? Next thing is that all of them should have phase part omega t minus beta mz. So that is the mode, T like mode we are considering, right? So now in this case, I know that the power carried away by this mode along z direction. I can easily say that P should be equal to half of real part integration Em cross Hm, okay, and I will be taking z component, transverse component I will be taking. I will be taking Az, right? I will be taking transverse component of this one and dx dy. That is the power carried by the mth mode. This can be expressed as the power carried by the mth mode. Now if I just put this one and this one in this formula, components are this and this, then I know that this P will be half of this. So of course half real means we have to put star, half of real part, right, of minus Ey and Hx, right? And they will be function of xy, dx, dy. It will be star. Any question? So that will be your power, right? P equal to half real part of minus sign. I can write in front. Just you take a curl, that means cross of this one, and then you have to take the transverse things. That means what is propagating along, that means no, this is actually I have to take z component, right? Along the, this is a vector E cross H, z component I have to take. So if you take the z component, this will be coming. So this one I should mention that this vector along z direction, that will be the carrying energy, right? And this is transverse direction. I don't need to write, once I write z, I don't need to write this one. So up to here everything is fine, right? Okay. So minus sign will be there by choice here, by because of this components are there, E cross H and star, I am writing this thing. And then I know that the Hx can be expressed, because normally, you know, in our Maxwell's equation, normally we can solve Ey, and after solving Ey or electric field, I can find out what is the value of Hx. Okay, so by that Maxwell's curl of E, if you just use curl of E equal to minus j omega mu h, this formula if you use, if you are writing m, then here you have to write m. So in that case, if I just try to find out hx component I want, right? mth mode I have written, but if I want to get a x component of this one, let us not just because I want to put x component, so I don't want to put m here simply so that to understand. But you should know that this is for mth mode, for example. You are just considering for mth mode. That means electric field and magnetic field you are considering for mth mode. So in that case, I can find out that I want to find out j omega mu hx. Hx component, x component right hand side, and here if I just try to see what is the value of this component, x component, how to do that? We know that ax, ay, az, del x, del y, del z, and then you have 0, ey, and ez. So I want to find out x component. Right hand side I have written only x component. Left hand side I want to write x component only. Some x component means I have to multiply this one and this one minus. So x component is ax times del y ez minus del z ey. Right? This is your x component. So I can write here del y ez minus del z ey, right? That this is the case. Now one approximation will be doing the ez component. Normally whenever I am just considering your electric field for T mode, ez components typically it is low, it is small compared to the ey component. That's why this part I want to some slope you are considering as 0, because ez is negligibly small and slope will be even smaller. That approximation if we do just to get a better, this is just for getting some kind of good compact formula, we can do this type of approximation as long as ex much greater than ez, we can just ignore this part, right? Then we have minus del z ey component. Ey component will be xy as well as e to the power j omega t minus beta z, right? That should be equal to minus j omega mu hx. So hx xy times e to the power j omega t minus beta z. Now you see left hand side. Left hand side, this one is xy dependent, I will keep as it is, and you have z dependent part only this one. So I will be getting minus j minus plus j beta ey xy e to the power j omega t minus beta z, right? That should be equal to minus j omega mu hx xy e to the power j omega t minus beta z, right? So once you get that, this j cancel. So what we get, hx xy, if I just try to write, then what will happen? It will be beta by omega mu ey xy, and then minus sign will be there. So this is the relationship between hx with ey, right? And if it is obviously if it is mth mode propagation constant will be some beta m, I can write that. So now go back to the previous thing here. So hx, instead of hx I can write in terms of ey. Hx I can write in terms of ey. So I go back there. I have the formula for P equal to half of, right? Minus sign was there already, another minus sign. So it will be beta m by omega mu and then integration ey xy dx, this is square, dx dy, this is the power, right? So that means I can write pz along z direction, propagation is beta for mth mode, beta by 2 omega mu. Sorry, if you have difficulty in understanding this derivation, you just let me know, because these are very important for visualization, everything. I will be repeatedly using this formula. So ey xy square dx dy. So that is actually our power flowing in a mode. If I only solve ey, and if I know beta, omega and mu, then ey distribution, if I know, I just take a square of that one, dx dy integration, then I can find out what is the power carried by the that mode. If it is that mode, particular mode, I can write here, and I can write ui field for the mth mode. Okay, and I can write here for mth mode whatever the power being carried. So I know that whenever I'm just going back to that other equation, when m equal to n, that actually gives you the same mode, how much power is being carried in the z direction, right? E cross h, I need to find out z direction, because these are all transverse component. These are all transverse component. According to our orthogonality condition, these are actually transverse component. That means xy variation you are considering, and then you are integrating over dx dy. That is your cross-sectional variation here, right? So that means what I will be writing here. Sometimes this is a particular mode, right? We can write this one beta by 2 omega mu, okay, m, and integration over double integration ey xy, right? ey xy square dx dy, that should be equal to total power. We can say that a mode, mth mode, that is normalized to 1 watt, because you know ey xy, this is a solution. Okay, for any mode, how much power it can carry, any value it can carry. But to get a profile, or this is a function, right? Function, to get a profile, how it is the how it is varying in the xy cross section. To find out that, I can say that okay, every mode, if it is mth mode, it is actually normalized to 1 watt. It is carried by, it is carrying 1 watt power. Suppose if it is 5 watt power, that means I have to just, if I just normalize to this one, this value I will be just writing 5 times, then it will be 5 watt. If it is 10 watt, just I will multiply 10 watt. Once you find this one, I have to find these values such that this is a normalized one, so that I integrate, and beta m by 2 omega mu I multiply, then that will be 1 watt. If it is 10 watt, that means this entire profile should be 10 times. That means the integration constant, some value you can multiply here, a equal to a times this one equal to 1 watt. If I just normalize, then I can find out a value of a, I can find out the value of a for 10 watt power. Okay, value of a for 5 watt power. So that way we can consider. This is just for mathematical simplification. We just use that one, that every mode is carried by 1 watt power. So that means if this normalization we use, that means what I can write? I can write ey xy square for mth mode, if I just say dx dy, so I just cross section integration I am just considering, okay, that can be written as 2 times omega mu by beta times 1 watt. Okay, this should be multiplied by 1 watt. What is this? If I just dimensionally I just put down all the value, you will find that that value will become volt square. So mu equal to Henry per meter, omega is equal to radian per second, and this one is radian per meter. Beta means 2 pi by lambda. You can put down, and 1 watt means joule per second, right? Joule per second. If you all put together, the dimension will come volt square. That is correct, because you know that what is the field dimension? Volt per meter square, volt per meter, and we have square, and then you are multiplying area, so that means meter square, so it will be volt square. So accordingly, left hand side and right hand side dimensionally matched. Okay, so if I write some way that this value is something like this, then we can say that I can find EYXY is a normalized profile of the electric field, which gives you that 1 watt power carried by the mode. That is what we can understand if we write this one. So far, any question till now? If you have any doubt, let me know, because these are very important. I will be repeating again and again in course of time. I will be using this again and again. So now, if this is the case, so in general, if I try to write this one, EM XY, right, cross vector HM XY, right, dx dy. Okay, this I can write, I am just putting this one, this value I can write as what? 2 omega mu by beta m delta mn. Can I write this? Let me know what is your opinion.
Yes, sir.
I can write, yeah. So this is actually whatever orthogonality condition we have written, initially we have derived considering that mode 1 and mode 2, they need not be equal. But when they are equal, that means how much power it is carried by the mode. So together we can write this is the orthogonality condition. This left hand side, this one, and of course here you have to write star, because I am considering power. Real part I have to consider, that 2 comes because of the half real part of this one, right? So whatever value you are getting, this has to be real part, whatever things you are getting. So instead of this one, I can just simply write 2 omega mu by, this is 2 omega by mu by beta delta mn. Of course, whenever you are writing delta mn, that means it is delta mn watt. That is dimension of delta mn is watt. You have to put down dimensions of omega mu beta m, so that you can get left hand side right hand side matched. Okay, so whenever orthogonality condition I will be writing onwards, I will be writing this expression now, that is established now. For any guided mode, this is the orthogonality condition. To mention orthogonality condition, I will be writing this one all the time. If you have doubt, let me know. Now I will be just discussing the new thing that is called coupled mode theory. Okay, so coupled mode theory. So why we need to learn coupled mode theory? Few things. So far, let me try to get a 2D waveguide, but I am writing in looking like 1D, right? I just say the top view of the waveguide. I am just showing here. For example, this is your waveguide structure. So typically, SOE waveguide structure I'm just showing as an example. Any waveguide you can consider. This is XY. So when I'm just top view I'm showing means I'm just showing, for example, this one, this thing I'm getting. So that is, if it is your say so-called Y and this is X, then I can write this would be your Y and this is your Z, something like this. That is the top view. Okay, so jet propagating I'm just considering top view of the waveguide. Okay, now suppose you have a waveguide and suddenly you see that there is a bump, something like this here, somewhere here some additional material is there. Whenever you are fabricating a waveguide in the structure, something like this in the path, some island is there, maybe something you have here, something you have created somehow because of the fabrication, some bump already is there, that is not removed completely while fabricating that thing. Okay, will that affect this waveguide? What is your, what should be your answer? Suppose you have something while you are defining using your CMOS technology, you are defining this waveguide structure, for example, in silicon, and somehow because of the fabrication error or so, some bump like this type of thing, some particle remaining is there where it is unwanted. Normally you don't want that, somehow this one is there. So now I need to know whether this thing will change any property of this waveguide or not. What do you think? Jashwant?
Yes, sir. It will affect, like depending on the distance, it may affect.
Why you are saying so, distance?
Because since the electric field, the mode evanescent field, if it interacts with the
Yeah. So
field
if
traveling
you,
in this block.
so if you see the electric field, suppose you have a UI component, you are just plotting UI component, right? UI component, suppose you are just plotting around some x1 coordinate. Around x1 coordinate, you are just trying to plot as a function of y what is the UI value. So normally, you know, suppose this is your waveguide core region. So if you just see that waveguide mode will be something like this, right? Waveguide mode will be this one. So this is your waveguide position, core region, and evanescent tail will be something like this. But if you're something this island somewhere coming something like this, then normally it is not a problem. But whenever this is very close to this one such that it is within the range of the evanescent field, then this waveguiding, that mode shape, that will be affected. And we would like to know how much it will affect. Is it severe or somehow it is manageable? So that we need to understand. So for that, this coupled mode theory will help us. That anything, this we will consider as a perturbation, some kind of perturbation. This one is some kind of perturbation is there. Then if any change is happening, if some losses will be there or some property is changing, that I need to include in my model for final expression. And also sometimes what happens, you can, this type of perturbation you can intentionally add. And that can be periodic. Okay, certain arrangement is there. Periodically you just put down this thing, because this periodic, that means you are periodically you are changing your, you have some kind of modulation along the waveguide, right? Periodically. So if this periodic structure is there, that means periodically you are just giving this type of perturbation, meaning periodically you are disturbing your evanescent field in its path. What would be the effect? So why I'm saying this periodically, I think this type of structure, periodic structure, can give you a lot of functions. And one function is called filter function. We can get a very nice filter function because it is a periodicity, certain wavelength, it may block, it may not pass, it may not guide. That particular wavelength can come back in the backward direction. It will use as a reflector. Okay. So now I want to know which particular wavelength will be reflected at all, whether that is actually dependent on the period, and whether this dependent on how much perturbation is this thing. Then I can actually think of coupled mode theory to predict what would be the final results. And another thing is that suppose you have a waveguide of this cross section, and you have another waveguide relatively bigger cross section. Okay, this top view I am showing, and this is top view I am showing, and I have launched 1 watt power here in fundamental mode, for example, fundamental mode 1 watt power there. Now I bring this fiber, this waveguide here, and I reduced the waveguide dimension. What will happen? I launched 1 watt power here, and then suddenly my waveguide dimension is reduced. So what do you expect in this interface? Anyone? Ankita. Ankita, are you there?
Yes, sir.
So suppose, just I want your understanding that you have a waveguide here, wider waveguide, and you have launched a fundamental mode, 1 watt power you have launched. Okay, and then your second waveguide is coming with is smaller. In the interface, what you expect? Okay,
Effective index will change, but
what will happen?
effective index will change, right?
Yeah, that
So,
waveguide dimension change means effective index will change. But just think qualitatively, and also whatever you have learned from the learned so far, based on that you try to answer. Effective index will change, that is for sure. First of all, just say yes or no whether this 1 watt power will be coupled completely to the second waveguide.
no.
What is the reason? So it is obvious, common sense that says that. So for example, just simply think, you have a some kind of drain, water flowing drain, right? Water is flowing here, and now you have a drain with a smaller cross section here, right? So whatever water flowing in the bigger drain, suddenly my drain size is reduced, right? If I have a blockage here somehow, then what would happen? You can expect that whatever coming in, everything should be going here. But if it is open here, what would happen? Some water will go out, right? And only little will be going here, if possible. So a lot of wastage will be there. And somehow, if you have some kind of boundary here, then what happens? Whatever power, water will be coming here, all the input flux, that will be going as an output flux here. Here also, if I do something like this, do you expect that all the electromagnetic power coming in should go there like a water channel, water drain? Yeah, anyone? Who else you are there? Yajit, what is your answer?
Yes, there will be used.
There will be. So suppose you are blocking like this. So 1 watt I am launching here. 1 watt will go throughout. It will be coupled to the second waveguide. One thing is that suppose n effective here 1 will be there. Say 1, n effective index will be 2. So what do we expect? It's a 2 type of transmission line, for example. One waveguide, another waveguide. Characteristics impedance different. N effective 1, n effective 2. What do you expect?
Some reflection.
Some reflection. So here you would see some kind of reflection for electromagnetic wave. It is not like a water line. It will be coming down and then whatever it will be going, it will not go in the backward direction. Right? But here it will be just going like this. Some reflection will be there. That is fine. Other than reflection, anything else? Effective index, you are calculating for this mode. So if you just think of mode here, then that means your electric field is here, electric field is here, electric field is here, electric field is here, right? So when, suppose in a waveguide, just I give you one example. Even though waveguide is like this, you have a waveguide, and I see that a particular mode is launched like that. That can be 1 watt. So electric field is there. So how they propagate? They propagate from one place to another place by interacting with the material medium, right? So if you see in this cross section, all the material medium, the atoms are there. The electric field will actually interact with the material atomic layer, first atomic layer, and from there they will actually transfer power to the next one. Each of them will be acting like a small antenna. So they will be receiving power and re-radiate in the forward direction. So that is how it propagates. But when suddenly your waveguide cross section reduced here, only this region, this many atoms will be there, or small micro antennas you can imagine, they will be actually excited by the central region. And the region outside here, they are actually in the cladding region. They will not contribute to the guided mode to the smaller waveguide. So that means because of the mode mismatch, mode size mismatch, you will see additional loss, mode size mismatch. Because the here whatever interaction is happening, that is actually contributing to loss somewhere here. Only central portion whatever contributing, that will be contributing to the core region, whatever contributing, that will be there, right? So now in that sense, if I just think, if I ask you a different question, for example, little bit reverse question. Okay, now if suppose instead of launching from this side, you are launching 1 watt from this side, smaller waveguide, and here it is a bigger waveguide. I am launching 1 watt from this side. What you get? Entire 1 watt power will be coupled here.
If they have different refractive index.
So reflection is there, Fresnel reflection is there, but because of the mode mismatch, here mode is something like that and here mode is something like that. But if you are launching from the reverse direction, what do you expect? Reverse direction also mode mismatch is there. So, but it is a smaller mode size, it is going into the bigger mode size. What is your idea that whether the entire 1 watt will be coupled? Yadunanda.
So different modes also might be excited. Other
Suppose it is designed such that both are fundamental. single moded. In that case, what will happen? That's a good point, that it can be multi-moded. So it can happen that the power is distributed into many modes. That's fine. But suppose they are designed such that both are single moded. So here also you will see, because of the mode mismatch, light, the forward direction, whatever loss will be there, reverse direction loss will be similar. So here also you will see similar, even though your mode is, it is showing that the entire field actually overlapping with the part of this one. But ultimate power transfer depends on how good they are overlapping. So called, if this one, we'll see that just simply, if this one is the electric field E1 XY, right? And this one is the E2 XY, fundamental mode distribution, field distribution. Then another one parameter we define called overlap integral. Overlap integral is this one, E1 XY times E2 XY dx dy. Okay, dx dy. This overlap, depending on this overlap, actually you can see whatever power coupled, that is called overlap integral, how much power will be coupled from this waveguide to this waveguide and vice versa. They are identical. If you can quantify this one, this is suppose gamma, then this gamma is the one figure of merit. You can define that how much power you will be losing because of the mode mismatch. Okay, so this thing actually you can come to quantify. You will be understanding from the coupled mode theory that coupled mode, that means you are coupling this mode to this mode. Then how much power will be coupled? You need to quantify. That will be done by this one. Of course, you can just do, you can do some kind of normalization also. This is your total power I am just doing, right? If I total power each mode I am just considering. I know that this thing and this thing, this should be 2 omega mu by beta times 1 watt beta 1, and this one will be 2 omega mu by beta 2 into 1 watt. So that power I can normalize it, whatever the value you are getting here. This actually, after normalizing, whatever value you get, that actually you can define as a overlap integral. Okay, that actually gives the amount of power will be transferred to this one, and that can be understood, that can be quantified by coupled mode theory. So to avoid this loss, normally what we do this way. Slowly we reduced. We just try to make a adapter type things. If we have somehow, if we have some waveguide to different cross section to different width, then what we do, we taper it slowly to avoid that type of loss, mode mismatch loss, and then we can just consider this one. Okay, this is called tapering, or sometimes it is called spot size converter. Spot size converter. So this mode will be coming like this, and as the waveguide width is slowly varying, it will take some length, right? Slowly varying, then the mode size will be slowly will be compressed, and loss will be, you have to design such that it will not feel, because from one point to another point when it is moving, it will not sense much waveguide width difference, or effective index variation is too much. Width is not too much variation, slight variation if it is, you can say that that is actually moving slowly, or it is called adiabatic mode transition. Adiabatic mode transition. In that case, you can avoid you can reduce that mode mismatch loss. And in the process also, in the reverse direction also, it will happen. Slowly, slowly, it will be expanded. Okay. So this thing, how fast or how slow this tapering you need to design, that thing actually you get from this coupled mode theory understanding. And you know, we will understand also that normally in silicon, this waveguide dimension is in the order of 500 nanometer width. Typically, whenever you have designed this 1D waveguide, 2D waveguide, normally 220 nanometer. So for example, if you just consider this one. Okay, so this width is about 400 to 500 nanometer. And this one is, you know, that is device layer, normally 220 nanometer, 500 nanometer. But whenever you want to couple light into silicon photonics chip, the fiber, standard single mode fiber, you know, what is the core size? What is the core size? Anyone have idea? Standard single mode fiber? Huh? How much?
25 micron.
Micrometer, 8 or 9 micrometer.
Yeah, 9 to 10 micrometer. Standard single mode fiber, 9 micrometer or 10 micrometer. Typically, we consider 10 micrometer. If it is 50 nanometer, standard single mode fiber we get in the market, the core size is 10 micrometer and cladding is, diameter is around 125 micrometer. Okay, then you have coatings, plastic coatings, etc. will be there. But your core size is 9 micrometer means your mode will be, maximum light will be coming out of this, in this core region. If you see the mode size, that will be like this. If it is approximated as a Gaussian profile field distribution, so that size is 10 micrometer. Now, suppose you have a waveguide and you want a fiber like 10 micrometer. That means 20 times wider. It is 10 micron and this is 0.5 micron. So the huge mode mismatch loss. You will be getting hardly 1% to 2%. You can say that overlap. So for that purpose, what it is done in the coupling region, your 500 nanometer waveguide slowly, okay, you taper to about 10 to 15 micrometer. This width, you can make 10 to 15 micrometer. Okay. So whenever slowly you are, although this is actually 10 to 15 micrometer waveguide dimension of this, if you are considering they are highly multimoded. But you can have this type of tapering, and then if your light is coming from this side and adiabatically if it is expanded, then even though there are many modes are existing here, maybe 10, 15, 20 modes will be existing, but only fundamental mode slowly it will be expanded and fundamental mode will be excited. Other modes, the solutions are there, but they will not be excited. So only fundamental mode can be guided. So this is the method people use. You can use a wider waveguide structure, but still you can excite the fundamental mode. So this spot size converter helps, adiabatic spot size converter. So that understanding also you can get from the coupled mode theory. And another thing is that I said that fiber, how to couple fiber. When it is 10 to 15 micrometer wider, if you see the top view, okay, so in that case, you can make some kind of periodic perturbation called grating structure, right? And that grating structure, you know that this grating structure, if you create, that grating can actually help, if you suitably design, light shine on the grating that can directly couple light to this silicon waveguide. So since it is a 10 micrometer area, your core of the fiber is 10 micrometer, you bring that fiber directly on the top of the grating, then light will be coming here from the fiber and it will be coupled here. You can design the grating so that fiber can be at any angle or vertical or anything, you can do that. So that coupling, actually how much you can couple from fiber to waveguide with this type of grating coupler, that also we can understand from the coupled mode theory. Is that clear? So that means coupled mode theory I can understand only when there is some kind of perturbation is there. What is the effect? That is one thing I know, that just not to know the effect, but also we need coupled mode theory to design different type of devices. Also, for example, if you have certain waveguide is here, and if you have some waveguide, another waveguide is started here, for example, and suppose this spacing, how much spacing I can keep, that also I will come to know. If we solve the mode profiles, then we know evanescent tail you have to keep, and then at least you maintain that separation so that evanescent field does not interact with this one. But if suppose you want interaction, suppose another waveguide coming very close and then it will interact, that interaction will cause some kind of light coupling from this waveguide to this waveguide. Okay, so now if I design suitably of this waveguide and that waveguide, then I can actually, according to our desired value, you can drain, you can tap some light, electromagnetic wave, laser light, from this waveguide to that waveguide. To design, that is actually called directional coupler. Directional coupler. So to understand that length, separation, how much coupling needed, to quantify that, to design that, you need to understand coupled mode theory. Sometimes the coupled mode theory, it is a bit of approximation we will discuss. That approximation sometimes may not give completely accurate results, but you get a feeling. You can actually get first cut design parameters using coupled mode theory. Then you can go for just using your experimental results, you can model, and then you can get better results. Okay, and then another thing is that once you know that one, the next thing is that if you have a waveguide, for example, this is your waveguide, just a line, and then you have a waveguide, for example, like this, you can tap a bit, and then what you do, you bring output of that one and bring back here. Okay, this is something not correctly drawn. So you know what is this? This is a waveguide. This one, this is called bus waveguide. And then this ring waveguide you are bringing very close so that the evanescent tail of the bus waveguide is interacting with the ring. Then some light will be coupled to the ring, and if that wavelength I am just launching here, if that is actually completely making a resonant condition in the circular path, then that particular wavelength will be stored here, that will be missing here. So that is actually called micro ring resonator, ring resonator. If it is a smaller dimension, micro ring resonator it is called. In micron dimension, micro ring resonator. So now to design this particular device, interesting device, we can actually, we need to use the coupled mode theory. Okay, so apart from this ring resonator, you can have also think of this kind of Mach-Zehnder interferometer. Okay, integrated optical Mach-Zehnder interferometer. You launch a light here, it can split into two halves. One goes here, another goes here, and then combine here. Okay, then you can get two output. That means two input port, two output ports. How much you will be getting here, how much you will be getting here. So in this way, you can actually design a Mach-Zehnder interferometer. And this Mach-Zehnder interferometer is useful for modulators. Ring resonator also we have seen for modulator, power splitter, tunable power splitter, all those type of things we need to understand. So all these things qualitatively or to some extent analytically you can express, you can find out, you can get an analytical solution approximate analytical solution so that this micro ring resonator, Mach-Zehnder interferometer can be designed for a certain applications, certain functions. So they couple. So what I mean to say that this coupled mode theory, you can consider that is a core theory for integrated photonics, photonic integrated circuits. So I'll continue that from the next class. Okay, I stop. I think I'm just exceeding time.